You're listening to Cards to the Moon, a podcast about trading cards from both a collector and investor perspective. We hope you'll stick around for the ride as we take a deep dive into the state of the hobby, share some hot takes, hopefully some useful advice, and fun stories along the way. Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Cards to the Moon. This is episode 79. My name is Clark from 5 Card Guys on Instagram, and co-hosting with me, as always, is Hyung of Integrity Sports Cards and John, who is Trade You at Recess. So we have another special guest for this episode who we interviewed earlier. His name is Leon Chou, aka Basketball Card Enthusiast on Instagram. If you check out his Instagram page, he's got a pretty sick collection. So we'll talk to him about that, but we'll also talk to him about how he transitioned from collecting part-time to making it a full-time gig. So stay tuned for that. But before we play the interview, off the top today, I just want to mention recent news that came out earlier this week about French soccer sensation Kylian Mbappe signing an exclusive multi-year autograph memorabilia deal with Panini America. That means we'll finally see Mbappe autograph cards starting with Panini's National Treasures FIFA Road to the World Cup soccer collection in September. So next month. So 2 questions for you guys. How much do you think those signed cards are going to be worth? And secondly, if Panini isn't acquired by Fanatics, which is the rumor out there, even after they lose their NBA license deals, do you think signing exclusive contracts with major superstar players like Mbappe from other sports can keep them afloat? So yeah, first your thoughts on Mbappe autograph cards. I know a lot of people have been waiting for them.
I think having that, you said National Treasures?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that's gonna go for a pretty penny, or a lot of people are gonna be all over that. But I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not a huge fan of like unlicensed product or whatever. I guess it would.
No, soccer would be.
How would it
be
look?
Licensed, right?
Oh, it would.
Yeah.
Okay.
Panini has the.
Oh,
license,
right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be a monster card, or it's like it's massive.
5 figures.
We see it like with the Exquisite brand kind of. In terms of kind of like the big autos of the big guys. And I think, there's no different where, Mbappe, he was a big deal over the last couple years in the height of the pandemic. It kind of dropped, obviously, but I think there's a lot of hype surrounding him during this time as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a big boy card.
Is this the first NT release for soccer? It is, right?
I believe so, because I don't remember.
There's no NT.
So NT, Road to the World Cup, just in time for the World Cup. Mbappe on card autos. I don't know how much it costed to get Mbappe on board, but clearly Panini has one last shot at, staying relevant and keeping, their company values up, and I think soccer is their moneymaker, right? Fanatics, they didn't take the soccer license. So they're good there. I think it was, I can't speak to the business side. I don't know how much they signed Mbappe for, but just apples staring at what they did, it seems like the right move. They're building the hype for the World Cup. They're building hype for high-end soccer, and if they don't get bought out, at least they're going to try to corner like the high-end soccer market, which is not a bad move,
Yeah, I agree with that. Even if they lose their NBA license, which is going to be a huge loss for Panini, obviously. I think soccer is kind of a growing niche in the sports card market. And if they continue to take the strategy, and explore even other sports. I don't know what is out there. We've been saying like it seems like the hobby is growing more international, so that might be the way Panini has to go to stay relevant in the hobby.
Right.
But
not only relevant, but like even like building their, like John said, kind of like their value. their brand value, because they're hurting so much, and now they actually have, you know, value to give in terms of if Fanatics did want to approach them, you know, the price might be a little different now. You know, if you corner the market with like a Mbappe type player, right? So
I was just about to say that. Yeah, they could increase their valuation if they get bought out by Fanatics. So we'll stay tuned and see what happens. But yeah, good news for Panini to get Mbappe on this deal. Okay, so with that, let's run our interview with Leon. It was a pretty lengthy interview, a lot of good stories in there. So I think you guys will really enjoy the next 45 minutes with Leon. So we'll play that right now. Today we're glad to have on our podcast Leon Chou, aka basketball_card_enthusiast on Instagram. He actually reached out to us on Instagram saying he enjoyed listening to our shows, which we're super grateful for. But we wanted to invite him on the podcast because in our chat we found out that he's a hobby veteran, collecting cards since 1989, doing it as a side hustle on eBay since 1999 when he was in college. And exactly, I believe you mentioned 1 year ago, he quit his corporate gig to do cards full time. In other words, for us in the hobby, he's living the dream. So without further ado, Leon, welcome to Cards to the Moon.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Enjoy your content. It's just, you know, I'm happy to be here, be able to talk about anything.
Yeah, awesome. So glad to have you. So yeah, I gave a quick background introduction for you, but maybe you can fill in some details of your hobby journey. Like when you said you've been collecting since 1989, was that when you were a kid growing up collecting cards like the rest of us? And you got back into the hobby, like when I did the math, a lot earlier than many of us did. We got in like maybe 3 years ago during the height of the pandemic, but you actually said you went back to the hobby in 1999. So you're definitely a true definition of hobby vet. So yeah, you want to fill in the details of your hobby journey for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably about when I was about 10, that was in 1989. I grew up in a small town, Elizabeth City, North Carolina, and there's like 3 card shops there. One of them was in the attic or right above the garage. I remember someone's house. He had to go through his kitchen to get up there. It's crazy. S&S Cards. I'll never forget that place. And then there's a couple other ones downtown. Small town, 15,000 people, Elizabeth City. And, kids that age, I mean, back then, gosh, you had Nintendo and you had cards.
Right.
And this is the junk era. You know what I mean? So to me, I grew up with sets like 1989 Pro Set Football. 1989 Score was too expensive for me at that time because it was short printed, hard to find.
Right.
Those were the key cards, 1990 Leaf. Well, it takes me back. I mean, 1990 Leaf was an awesome baseball set.
Right.
I remember just, saving my allowance just to get the key cards out of there. But grew up at that time, again, junk wax. So it was great, did that. When I got to college, well, fast forward to 1997, I still did cards, but the internet was like a old, DOS system, black screen with the green letters, what I mean? Right. And we finally got, dial-up internet, and really all you had there much was like, Beckett Marketplace was still around back then, believe it or not. And that was kind of one of the only places, if you didn't have a card shop. I went to college at Western Carolina University. There was a card shop out there. It's in the middle of the mountains in a small town called Silva. And I'd buy off a Beckett Marketplace. College is tough. You don't have a lot of money. So, I would always, I remember I collected refractors back then, and I still love them now. But eBay, I was introduced to eBay in 1999. And that's really where I realized, like, hey, you can make some money off this stuff, Yeah. It's another plug out there to the whole wide world to make money. And I'll never forget, I think the first flip I ever did, and this is when I was into all sports. I didn't have a specialty. I just loved everything.
Right.
1999 Bowman, I believe. It was baseball. Might have been 2000, and it was Rafael Furcal. He was a shortstop for the Atlanta Braves.
I remember.
And I remember he went on this tear. I mean, and back then, I don't know, you might have had a 10, 20 game hitting streak. He just went on a tear. He was a leadoff guy, you know, getting on base all the time, getting lots of steals, scoring a lot of runs. And the Atlanta Braves back then was on everybody's TV, TBS, you know, Turner Sports.
Yeah.
So everybody saw the Braves, and he was their new hot toy leadoff man. And I remember I had bought a lot because I was just trying my hand at prospecting. I bought a lot of, like, it might have been like 20 of his just Bowman, nothing Bowman Chrome, but just Bowman cards, prospect cards. I'll never forget, like, he was on this tear and I listed him on eBay. And I want to say I probably spent 50 cents to $1 each on them, maybe less than that. And in college, you know, they have a lot of money. And then again, he went on this tear and they got up to like $20 a base card. It was ridiculous.
Wow,
It was something stupid.
Yeah.
And I sold them on eBay. That was my first flip. And I got addicted ever since. And the funny thing is I sold them to the guy who owned the card shop in the same town.
Oh, no.
He bought them off eBay.
Right.
He delivered it to him. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like, hey, you know, I see you all the
crazy.
time. Here you go, here's your cards. But, I mean, I made such a profit on them, you know, selling them there. I mean, what, made a few $100 at least. And it was crazy. It was just, I was hooked. I was like, man, you can make money off of this. You know, like, I'm in college and you can prospect. And I mean, I put together a lot of crazy sets back then. This is when, you know, 1998 SB Authentic, the Vince Carter rookie.
Yeah.
I had those sets. I had the finite set. I did all of those sets. I mean, and it was affordable back then. And so some of the sets I put together now, I look back at them like, man, I wish I still had, you know, some of them. And it's crazy, but it was that. And as I went on through college, I think I probably took a little bit of a break right when I graduated, which was 2001, 2002. And that wasn't a great year to me as far as like basketball wasn't great. I think Yao Ming came out then, and then LeBron James hit, right? 2003, 2004 class. Yeah. It drew me back into it. I remember like buying boxes of, I think it was Upper Deck glass. It was a product in Upper Deck. And they were like, to me, they were like $200, $250 a box. And I thought that was insane, trying to chase LeBron James rookie cards, you know. But I got back into it, and it kind of built from there. You know, I was out of college. I was selling used cars while I was studying to get my realtor license and doing cards still. There's always a side hobby for fun.
Wow, all this
side
time.
money, you know.
Yeah.
And then when I became a realtor, I was making a little bit more money, try to put a little more money in there, but it still was always a side hobby. I then moved to Charlotte probably 2006. And again, I'm from North Carolina, so I was all over North Carolina. And I got back into it kind of heavily then. And then I started really doing eBay like crazy. I mean, from then, and that's, I mean, those are great years. I mean, I look back at it, I was really into it. And honestly, I've always just had it as a side hustle, making money. Then you have to file taxes with PayPal. They shoot you that 1099, and you're like, "What is this?" And I've been doing that forever now. But still, it's just like, it's like it's part of the process, right?
Sure.
So fast forward to now. I mean, I've moved around a lot. I'm in Ohio now, and my it's funny. I've been working a corporate job. I've working a corporate job for about 7-8 years since I moved to Ohio. Wasn't making the greatest amount of money, but okay to get by, you know what I mean? And so, and this is right before the pandemic hit. I've been buying cards and right before it kicked in, and it was just like, it was kind of a crazy field. Everybody's like, what's going to happen, right?
Right.
Is cards going to go down?
Yeah.
You know, what's going to happen? You've all heard this before, but instead of what everybody thought happened, it went opposite.
Right.
Things boomed. And I'll never forget. In 1 month, I made more, and this is gross, more than I made in a yearly salary in 1 month.
Crazy. Yeah.
And I told my wife, and she was just like, man, you should really be doing this full time instead of working for this corporate job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I kind of wanted to weigh it out, see how it would go. And then last year, I used to do set up at card shows, probably, you know, once or twice a year. So let me set up at a card show. And I'll never forget, I set up at a card show, and my wife was with me. and like within the first hour, and this was when, so last August, you got to think the junk slabs were starting to, they were pretty high. Anybody wanted the PSA 10 anything. PSA 10 LaMelo Ball, I want it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody wanted it. Anybody, and had a ton. I had a ton of stuff. I mean, I would buy, like we were talking about Blowout earlier, I would buy off of there. I would buy off of Facebook. You guys were talking about in the last episode, different venues to buy.
Right.
And I would buy all these slabs. I mean, I had hundreds and hundreds of slabs because people would send off, the grading specials, get them back cheap, keep the ones they want, and get rid of the other junk. Right. And I would just be there to pick it up, and I'd get them all. I'd have 2 row boxes full of slabs, and business was booming, in August. And it was kind of more towards, I think it was kind of at the peak and coming back down. But my wife saw me make like $5,000 in my first hour, and she sat with me at a show, and she was just like flabbergasted. I mean, her jaw was dropped. She couldn't believe it. And she's like, "You're really good at it." She saw me like in action, dealing with customers, talking with them, selling.
Sure.
And she's like, "You really need to be doing this." And so I was like, "Okay, let's give it a whirl." And I quit my corporate job full turkey. You know how I don't know if you guys know, but you quit a corporate job, everybody's like, "So what are you going to do now? Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to sell basketball cards for them." And they're like looking at me like, "What?" I'm like, "You guys don't know." Then, but they're just like, "Oh, okay. Go on with that." And I've hit the ground running ever since. I mean, honestly, it's been wonderful. I have 2 little children, so I have time to spend with them. I'm my own boss. I make my own hours. I don't have to report to anyone. Wife is happy. Financially is great, and the big thing is just making sure you keep your records. I mean, there's a few things that, I've learned along the way and talking to people that you have to do, if you're in business for yourself, going full time. And that's, records is a big thing about it. I mean, everything. If you go to McDonald's while you're on a card show, every cent of gas you put in, you keep every single receipt, and find a good accountant. You know what I mean? This guy's been doing our taxes for years. He's great, but it's separate. Now it's like reporting everything and paying taxes quarterly, so you don't get that big bill at the end of the year. You know what I mean? There's just little things that go into it, but it's not hard if you have a good person with you. But so that's kind of where I'm at now. I do shows 2 to 3 times a month. I've scaled it back because as you learn shows in the area, I live in Ohio, Midwest Ohio, so around the Columbus area. I've hit all the shows here. You learn what shows, what people like and what's good and what's not. The buyers, they learn you. And I've learned the smaller shows are fine. They're great for like moving the cheap slabs, the junk slabs, the $1 cards, the $2 cards, the $5 cards. That's fine. And then you have a different clientele when you go to these bigger shows like Dallas, or there's one in Shipshewana and Monday, Labor Day. It's a nice show. Chantilly National, things of those natures. You have a different clientele, and that's where you can make some really good money. But I've kind of narrowed it down. I usually plan out my schedule a few months ahead, and get all my hotels booked and plane flights or whatever. But I strategically say, hey, well, this weekend, what show's going this time, and I try to match it up to either a show I haven't been to or one I have been. But the thing is I've kind of cut out some of the smaller shows unless it's local and I have a free time in there. But with kids and sports, it's kind of like you want to have your weekends free. So I try to limit it to, like I said, 2 or 3 a month. Okay. But that's really where the majority of the income come from is the show, because the show is cash in hand. You know what I mean? It's cash. Cash is king. And there's other venues. I mean, I saw on Instagram, I post a lot, and people just say, "Hey, your car's for sale," and that's a good plug there. Blowout, I've had very good success there. Facebook, on all these groups, you can, if you're well known, like you were saying on the last episode, once you build that cred, you put a fire sale up, you'll have like hundreds of people watching. It's almost like Whatnot or whatever. I'm not even on Whatnot, but I imagine you have hundreds of people looking at your feed. Same thing with Facebook. You get in a reputable group, you get that cred, and you post on there, and you're like, I'm running a fire sale or running a sale, and you'll have hundreds of watchers, and those have been very successful as well.
Nice.
So, like I said, that's kind of in a nutshell. I kind of went off track, but it's kind of nutshell how
No, I
I've
appreciate it.
right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
No, kind of answered my next question about how you transitioned into buying and selling cards. So we appreciate the history behind it, and we should have had Leon on last week's show when we're talking about alternatives to eBay, because he seems to have been on it all.
You guys hit it though. I mean, you guys hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's not just eBay. It's not just PWCC. Right. It's not just Golden. I do believe what you guys said about PWCC and Golden is a great point. There's not a lot of eyes out there yet compared to like eBay.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I've watched and I've looked at some things. I've never actually bought anything, but I've kept my eye on a few things, and a lot of my friends have bought off of there with great success and getting things cheaper, and that's another great plug. But when I think of PWCC and Golden, I think of higher end, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You're not looking at $10, $20 slabs. You're looking at really higher end.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's kind of a different niche, I guess you could say, that have eyes on that.
Absolutely.
And I mean, one important thing that I've always done is, you treat people how you want to be treated, right? And so at shows, I meet a lot of people that I buy from or even that I sell to, and you develop a friendship. You exchange numbers. Right. You hit them up every once in a while. Hey, I got this in new. Like, I got a guy just hit me up before I got in here. Hey, what new Larry Bird, Magic Johnson autos you got? He always buys them from me. Right. And I'm always getting them in. And so I just send it over, and it's you just develop that relationship. Right. And even on Blowout, I have some guys that will always come to me and sell, and they don't even post their stuff for sale, but I can hit them up because I know they do breaks, or I know they have just stuff they're digging up. Right. And it's like a plug, and you just keep going back to them, but you develop that, friendship. So I've learned that along the way too. Is without a lot of these people, I wouldn't have the inventory that I have. You know what I mean? To be able to buy and sell. And that's another big thing with the inventory. You got to keep it moving. One thing my buddy told me, do you card collector too, Ryan?
Yep.
We were having lunch. Like, I remember last year we were just sitting having lunch. He's local here. And he was like, you got to keep that inventory turned, man. I mean, especially when you're starting out, because you don't have time to afford to hold a bag on stuff and sit there. On cars that you think are going to go up, or cars that are going to multiply, let me wait till he has a great season, because that's money that's sitting there that he can use for something that you could flip right away, or you can put money towards something else. Yeah. And that's one of the things is when the inventory and doing shows, I don't ever want to have the same thing. People travel these shows, so you see the same people a lot of these bigger shows. I don't want you to come to my table and I'm have the same thing every time. And it's kind of like I'm not offering anything new. So between every show, I'm always buying. I'm always looking for stuff. I'm always trying to either trade things out or try to, sell things online, just so I always have new inventory, because I always want to be able to provide something for them. Like, I didn't see this last time, or there's something really cool, So I don't keep things long at all. The inventory just is flipping pretty fast.
Yeah, but, I was going to ask, like,
I mean, you can't.
Sorry, from that perspective, when you're saying you don't like to hold on to inventory, are there any particular cards you like to target, or do you just kind of stay on top of the pulse of what's hot and what's not in like a given month or 2 months? Like, how do you determine what to buy and what to sell?
So interestingly, it's weird. It's like when I first started, slabs were the craze, right? I mean, everybody wanted to buy these PSA slabs. Like I was saying, you had a PSA 10 of the rookie, everybody wanted it, and you were getting premium price for it. But I had to adjust because that crashed, right? Everybody started getting their PSA orders back. And there are 5 million Luca Prisms PSA 10s out there. And they dropped from what to what. I mean, silver Prisms, I was selling them at $7-8 grand. Where are they now? PSA 10s.
Under $2, Clark? Or around $2. I have one. So
but what I'm saying, like, but the market got crazy, right? They got
for sure.
But that's just a small example. You're talking about just the rubber-based cards. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I saw that, and I was like, man, everybody I walk around the show, everybody's got the same thing, these bulk slabs of modern stuff. That's not good, because if you go somewhere, why would you buy from me if the whole row down has the same PSA slab 10s and they could fight with you on price, right? So I thought to myself, and I said, well, what is something I don't see a lot of? And the shows around here, I don't see Hall of Famer autos.
Interesting.
So I said, that's going to be my niche. And if you look on my Instagram, it's not PSA 10 LaMelo balls
Right.
or Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's all Hall of Fame stuff. It's
Larry
all
Bird.
and
Yeah.
it's all on card because
Okay.
people I've found, at least who I sell to, they want to buy that stuff. They want to buy the exquisites. They want to buy the flawless. They want to buy the immaculates. They want to buy, all these cars that are on card. They like it because, for one, it's, if you look at it this way, there's not that much exquisite out there. You guys know that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I remember I was like, my goal is get one whole full showcase of exquisite, right? With all the Hall of Famers and stuff. And then I found out that was going to be kind of hard to do because I couldn't keep them long enough. They were selling so much, so well.
Right.
And so if you look on kind of what I post, that's really what I deal with. I deal with Hall of Famers, on-card autos, patch autos from the better, higher-end products. And it's worked for me because people are like, oh, I know that. I've had people come up to me at shows and be like, man, you're the only person that has this kind of stuff, especially at the smaller shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody has 10 Larry Bird autos or Magic Johnson autos to choose from, or Dr. J or Kareem or even Bill Russell, right?
Right.
And I was like, hey, I might be onto something. So that's where I've kind of stuck with because it works for me, and that's kind of where I narrow. So when I'm buying, that's what I'm looking for, and I'm also looking for scarcity. I mean, a lot of people, I hate to say it, but a lot of the newer people, or a lot of people that just get into it, they're like, oh, eBay goes back 90 days, right? And then they look at 130 point, which sometimes is not accurate, believe it or not.
Right.
But Terapeak goes back 365 days, and it shows a completed eBay sale. And that's what I use. But the things that I really like is when I can go and find something like it might be exquisite Bill Russell or something, right? Patch auto, and none of them have sold in the last 365 days on eBay. To me, that's rare. That's something that you don't have any comps for. I mean, you can look at other things for comps, different things to show, but some things that you can't find comps on that are so scarce or short printed, especially some of the exquisite lower number stuff. Yeah, it's kind of like, I'm definitely buying it. I want it. I don't care. You know what I mean? That's something that I know it's out. Nobody else will have it. And I'm not trying to pump, hey, exquisite or Hall of Fame autos. Right. It's just what works for me, and it's what people know me for, and people, like I said, people buy for me. They know I go to Leon's table. He's going to have a bunch of Hall of Fame autos, and I've branched it out to a little bit of football and baseball, but I mainly stick to basketball just because that's kind of my niche. That's what I know very well. You know what I mean? So, and like I was telling you guys, I was breaking products, remember? And so and that stuff is just awesome from 2012. All the Hall of Famers and stuff come out of the first year, exquisite and immaculate. But go ahead.
No, I like that. You're intentional about your strategies. That's always good point, good advice. Now that you've been doing it for on a full-time basis, and we all know that we're kind of in this bear market. A lot of our episodes are like, what do you do in this bear market? How have you found how have you been managing, and are there any challenges that you're facing right now?
No, honestly, it's more about getting and finding. It's almost like a treasure hunt to me when I buy. It's finding the rare pieces. Okay. People see it and they're like, I have to have it. I'll give an example. Other day, I think I traded for, and that's another way of getting, trading. You don't always have to buy. People always think, where do you get all this money to buy stuff? If you have plenty of inventory, you can trade. You never know what people want. But I had a Pete Maravich flawless game use patch. I can't remember what year it was. I want to say it was 2015, 16 or 16, 17. It was in a Celtics uniform, which you only played 26 games for the Celtics. So it's pretty rare if you think about it. It was number 1 out of 3, and it was graded BGS Gem 9.5, and the subgrades were like almost a pristine. So something like that is like, first of all, the person who's going to buy that, they're going to have to like flawless. They're going to like high end, but it's like something that I guarantee you those other two weren't graded a 9.5 if they're even out there. and it's game worn. Pete Maravich, I don't believe he has any certified autographs because he passed away. He might have like a certified cut or something, where it's a check or something, but I actually pack inserted autographs.
Right.
And it's like that's going to be a highly desired piece for people that love Pete Maravich or even Hall of Famers, because that's going to be the closest you get to an auto, right? And that's pack inserted. So I saw it, I was like, I have to have it. You know what I mean? And immediately I sold it. The first show I put it out there at pretty much asking price, which is pretty ridiculous. So, I mean, it's kind of those type of things, like Wilt Chamberlain autos. He only has 2 issues, and they have 2 parallels with it. Incredible auto upper deck, and then the, Century Legends or something like that. And they have the parallel ones out of 13, the other ones out of 100. So it's a total of numbered 113. Then the non-numbered, they're out there, but usually the autos are smudged or faded or whatever.
Right.
But you got to think Wilt, one of the greatest players of all time. That's all he's got, right? Now he has some patches and stuff, but they're far and few between. But stuff like that, when I see that stuff, I perk right up. I'm like, I want that stuff because it's stuff that you don't see every day, and people that really love basketball and like Hall of Famer stuff, that's what. I mean, I found out they like, and it hasn't been hard because I find pieces like that. I sold a Wilt auto. I had a Jim Incredible auto. I had a Jim SGC 98 Jim 10. It was an old label.
Right.
And that was probably one of my favorite cards. And honestly, that's just, I was happy to have it, and I had it for a year. And then I'm like, okay, it's time to move it. You know what I mean? So those type of things is cool to have. I didn't even put it out for sale till recently. And those are the type of things I usually try to put stuff like that for sale towards the national, because that's when people really want that stuff, the stuff that's hard to find. They want to have it for the national. But it hasn't been difficult once I found my niche. I felt like if I would have stayed with those slabs, and I was like, let me just keep buying slabs in bulk, that would have been a problem. And then a lot of people get left holding, like I said, the bag. They have these slabs and they don't know what to do with them, or they put money into them, or they're waiting to grade them, and then they get them back and they've lost 75% of their value.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, what do you go from there? So immediately, probably right after August or September, I just moved them all. I started bulking them out at shows, and like people that wanted to like take them from me, because I didn't want to be stuck with these slabs that kept, falling in value, and I kept seeing more and more of them. And so then I went towards on-card Hall of Fame autos or patch autos, or just rare stuff. I mean, I love gold prisms. I love Topps. You guys had a episode talking about what would you rather have, right? Gold prism, true. Topps gold, 50, or Topps gold, right? Refractor.
Yeah,
I say gold. You know what I mean? Like
that's the right answer.
Amazing. I mean, the gold prisms. Yeah, every year they're going to keep coming out with them, right? But every year they keep selling. Yeah. Every year the key rookies hit 5 figures, sometimes more. Topps Chrome, there's only a small window. They only made it from the golds. Let's see, they probably didn't make those until 2003 to 2009. Right? The golds.
Right. Yeah.
So what's the window there? 6 years? 7 years? And they serial numbered them. 99, 50, so the window is smaller there, and it's like they don't pop up very often. And when they do, I just posted a lot today, just one I picked up, and it had, I think, a gold McGrady, a gold Yao from 2009. That's like my favorite year. That's the Curry's year. But that year to me, that was this more scarcer year than all of them, I believe. You know what I mean? Because you had to buy the regular Topps. They didn't have Topps Chrome packs. You had to get them out of regular Topps hobby packs, or they had other packs too. But the golds were so hard to hit. Right. But I mean, those type of things. It's just that's kind of what I look for, and there's enough of it out there. I mean, and it's like a lot of other people I'll see. They'll buy, hey, they have a lot of Ant-Man, and I like Ant-Man. That's cool. And they have a lot of LaMelo. I'm not so high on him, and they have a lot of Luka and Trey. But if I'm going to buy one of those guys, I mean, things like the gold prism would appeal to me. Now, I don't know if that's something I probably can afford, but I'm just saying but those things appeal versus anything else. I mean, their NT-RPAs are just so sky high, and immaculate, RPAs and things of that nature. They're really high end, but it's hard to buy in if you want those guys. That's kind of what you want to go for, to me, because those have the most, to me, room to make the money. Where you get the smaller stuff, you have smaller levels of, make margin there, profit margin.
Sure.
But if you buy a bunch of them in quantity, if you think, oh, let me buy Luka Prism PSA 10s at 200 and 250, and he makes a run and wins a championship, and then they're 500 or whatever, you know what I mean? You're making it there, but that's a big if. And it's tough with the newer guys. Hall of Famers are established. Hall of Famers have already done what, their accolades, right?
Sure.
They've won championships, MVPs. You can go back and watch video on them and see how great they were, because a lot of the newer people don't know who these guys are.
Yeah.
But the thing about Hall of Famers, there may not be that the peaks, the ups and downs like the newer guys. The newer guys have a great 50-point game. Boom, right?
Yeah.
Double, triple,
volatility.
quadruple. Hall of Famers can't do that. I mean, they're already established. But I like the stability that I'm not going to be left holding the bag with Hall of Famers. I can put $10,000 in buying Hall of Famer autos, right? But I'm not worried about it dropping to $5,000 next year. But I could put $10,000 in a prospect or a newer guy, and I can worry about it dropping to $5,000. I mean, you guys seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
for sure,
that's kind of how I've adjusted my train of thought with buying now, and and that's just kind of the way I look at things. When people bring stuff for me to buy, and they have a bunch of modern stuff, I mean, I politely say, no, thank yous. It's not for me. But because, like I said, I see it. Everybody in the show has it. I don't want what everybody else has. I want to be different. I want to be able to have, like I said, what no one else has. So when they come to my table, it's like, ooh, but it's not for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people are like, they look at my showcases and it's all high in basketball, and they're like, you got any baseball or football or, and that's fine. But basketball is a popular sport, and if most people I've talked to said, it's popular, but there's also a lot of money to be made in basketball cards with the Asian market, international. There's a lot of money to be made in basketball cards.
For sure, yeah.
It doesn't spread like the baseball and football doesn't hit Asia like basketball does.
No,
you know what I mean? So,
good point. Nice.
Kind of what I focus on. How I adjusted. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's we appreciate that insight. When you mentioned that you got rid of all your slabs because you saw that trend going down, like that reminded, like that's pretty much what you did too, Hyung, right?
Yeah, that was what we talked about today, earlier today. That was kind of like my mission earlier on in the year. Kind of, noticed that slabs were trending downwards in general. They were overpriced to begin with. A lot of the ultra modern stuff, people have been just grading, thinking that they could, just make money just on the fly. And, of course, on a bullish market, you could buy anything. You could buy Louis Robert Topps Chrome and still make money, right? But it's not true when, things are going the other way. So that was one of my, I guess, kind of goals in 2022 is to lower my inventory in terms of slabs. I actually, I got rid of about $150,000 worth of slabs, over the last 3-4 months. So it was a mission to kind of like get it all out the door before they kind of went downhill. So yeah.
Good move, guys. Good move. I only have one more set question before we get into the rapid fire. But John, Hyung, you have any additional questions you want to ask Leon?
Go for it, John, if you have any.
I'm just always curious, and anytime we have a guest on, like what your PC is. I know you're moving cards, at any chance you get, but there must be something that's sentimental to you or that you hold dearly, like your collection piece.
You guys are gonna laugh because it used to be any Jordan auto I could get. It used to be Will autos, things of that nature, LeBron, Kobe. But honestly, like I've had so many of those, and I've gone through them, and I've learned in this business working for myself. There's no card that doesn't have a price tag on it.
Right.
You know what I mean? To me. I could say, I could have a Jordan Exquisite Auto patch out of 23 or something that's worth 6 figures or whatever. But if someone offers me the right amount of money for it, it's gone. Because I look at it this way. it's fun for me. It's a hobby, yeah, and I do it for a living. But my PC is a no-name guy that I started collecting in 2013. I'm a Sacramento Kings fan, and they drafted a guy in the second round named Ray McCallum Jr. and nobody knows who that is. If you guys know that, I'd be very impressed. And that's okay. So everybody was putting their money, and at that time it wasn't even Giannis, because Giannis they didn't know about Giannis first year. It was like, who is this skinny kid? Is he going to be any good? So people are putting money into guys like Michael Carter Williams, because he was getting triple doubles his first game or whatever. His hoops were going $100. It was dumb. Victor Oladipo, guys like that from that rookie class. I found this guy Ray McCallum, and I'm a Kings fan, and I was like, I'm gonna get every Ray McCallum Jr. card ever made because it's cheap. So I started, and it became an obsession, and I started buying them, and then I started realizing other people were buying them, because toward the end of the second half of his rookie year, someone got hurt or they were tanking. I can't remember, but they let him play. He was okay. He did okay. He started scoring, like he had a couple games where he was scoring in the high 20s, and how prospecting it, everybody's like, oh, who is this guy? He's going to be the starting this year or whatever. So people were buying. People were actually outbidding me and sniping and on really rare cards, and I couldn't believe it. And so I just started to say, you know what? I'm just going to get everything. So I started. I was like, first thing I'm going to do, he only has one RPA, immaculate. And I was like, I'm going to do the whole print run. There's 99. I probably have about 70.
Oh, wow.
70?
So, and the thing was, back then, I hate to tell you this, when he was having good games, they were probably selling between $40 and $80 a piece.
Oh, wow.
So I was buying them like I didn't care. I was outbidding whoever. I was like, you're not going to outbid me. I'm getting every one. Now I think the last one, I missed it because I don't even check for them anymore. One for like $1 or $2. But anyway, so I was like, I'm going to buy every immaculate RPA. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go even further. He has logo mans in there, right? And he has that year, the rookies had 5 logo mans. And I mean, the same logo man, but it was still a number out of 5. I was like, let me get them all. So I end up getting 4 out of the 5. I can't find number 5 out of 5. It might still be in packs. Who knows? Right. I said, let me go a little bit further. Let me buy all the acetates. Their jersey number, they're numbered to 3. So I bought all 3 of them. So 1, 2, have 1 and 1, 2, 2, 3, 3.
Crazy.
I said, okay, let me get the big boy. I got the 101 logo man with the inscription. It's like Go Kings. It's actually, if you look on my blowout, it's on my little avatar. It's that card. And people are like, who is that?
Right.
I'm like, that's pretty cool. Go Kings, that's like my most prized, possession. And I probably paid a lot for that, knowing me. But I can't remember. But if I was paying 40 to 80 per RPA, you can only imagine what I was paying for Logo Man, paying for the acetates, and paying for the 101. And I said, you know what? Let me get all his prisms. So I started buying his gold prisms. That year they had, that's the year they just went crazy with serial numbers. They had blue die cuts. They had retail versions. They had 49, 60, buying them all. Like autographs, gold prism autographs. Every set he was in, I was making sure I was buying every 101, every out of 5, every out of 10. And I probably should just start an Instagram page just for the Ray McCallums I have to show people how stupid it is.
I'll follow it if you'd start.
And then it might also help me put, eyes out there for the ones I'm missing.
Some people would tell you,
of course.
They'll probably try to get me for them. If someone has the 5 and 5 logo man, they're probably gonna ask me, grip them.
Oh yeah, for sure. I
know you need it. but honestly, if you could see, and I have almost every 101 I think that he has, because he came out in products later. He actually got traded to the San Antonio Spurs after I think his 3rd year. And I'm like, oh, should I sell him? Because there was actually a little bump in his prices. They weren't anything, but they took a little bump because he's going to Greg Popovich. And At that time, I mean, it's like, is he going to play, be a contributor on that team? But I was like, nope, I'm going to keep buying them because they kept making more cards of them in his Spurs uniform, and I kept buying them.
Hilarious.
And honestly, I'll say the other day I was looking and I found a 101. It was either Prestige. I can't remember what. It was a die cut, but it was an auto. It was a lot. It was a 101, one number to 10, and one number to 25. And I think I paid $20 for all 3 cards. And it goes straight to the PC. But you got to love that part of it. Because now nobody's looking for that. I'm like, who bid $19 on me? $19.50 to even get it. Like, who is this? Who's bidding? Is it him? Is it Ray McCallum himself? Like,
the guy who has the number 5.
So, I mean, I was happy. I mean, because back then I would have probably paid hundreds for that, right?
Right.
So I'm able to now find them and get them a lot cheaper when I can. But there's not much that I don't have anymore. That was one of the ones I didn't have. But I'm gonna put a post together, and you're gonna be like, "What are you doing with all these Ray McCallum cards?" I mean, I have 2 boxes full of them, and that's my PC. I know that's weird, and I'm gonna keep buying them because why stop now with everything?
Right.
I mean, at this point, I've lost how much money on it, so why stop now? I mean, it's not going to cost me anymore. I'm not going to spend money anymore unless someone's going to be a total butt about it and just say, "Hey, I'm going to outbid everyone I see on there because I know that Leon's going to get them." But that's
a cool story. I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
that is.
You know what?
The higher end stuff, I move it. Like if I look at things now, I look at when I see high dollar cards and anything I get high end, I look at, instead of, I want to keep it for myself. Honestly, my mindset is, how much can I make on it? And then I can flip that into something else. You know what I mean? And people are like, well, then do you collect or do you do this for a hobby? It's fun for me to do the search, to find, to buy and sell. Yeah. That's the fun part. Right. And it's fun to find Ray McCallum stuff too. But at the same time, the Jordans and LeBrons and the Kobes and the Wilts and all this stuff, it's cool. But as long as there's a number, a figure that I get that I'm happy with, that I make enough on it, I'm happy. Someone else can enjoy it and go to their PC. Sure. And I can just keep it moving and keep, what I do. This is what I do, what I love. I keep it going, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the fun part
for sure.
You don't want to run out of inventory. You want to keep it going,
Yeah, absolutely. Just curious, before we get to the rapid fire, with all the ups and downs you've experienced, obviously you've been in the hobby for a long time and we're kind of in this bear. What's your current outlook on the state of the hobby right now? Where do you think we go from here?
Honestly, with Fanatics taking over, and then, the rumor that the Panini rumor that I heard over the National, which is still not happy that they're, get bought. I mean, I don't know what to expect because we've been so used to Panini for a while, right? You know what I mean? Right. As the only people. Back when the 90s, I mean, you had Upper Deck, Skybox, Hoops, you know what I mean? Fleer. All the way up until 2009 when Panini first came in. And then that was the last year of Topps, and Upper Deck, they released that wasn't college, right? And I mean, those are great times, but it's just been Panini, and then all Upper Deck has been is college stuff. So I don't know what to expect, but I think for me and what I deal with, it doesn't affect me too much because I really buy the older stuff. Right. The newer stuff I'll play around with, like. Every year I play with Prism because I'm gonna join group breaks because that's the gambler pardon me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that Scotty Barnes Gold Prism that I missed out on. That was in one break. You know what I mean? I didn't get it. I was in that break, but I didn't have the Raptors. And so those type of things, because you get the rush that you get of hitting something like that is so much fun. But I'm not going to buy cases of it myself at the cost that they're selling it for to try to pull it myself. Group breaking is fun. It's a fun way to do it. But that's really the extent of what I get modern. Now, if someone comes up to my table and or offers me a Scotty Barnes Gold Prism, and it's something that I can get into comfortably, I'll take a stab at it. You know what I mean? But that's really the extent of it. With Fanatics taking over and all these new products coming out, I only dabble in it so much, so I don't know. As far as for me, it doesn't affect me too much. But for the outlook of the hobby, I don't know what to expect. Again, we're just so used to Panini and they cut corners. I'm not gonna. Everybody knows it, and it's time for a change, and we'll see what happens. And I've had things, I've seen it myself. Everybody has with Panini with redemptions. Yeah, left holding. Yeah, you get a nice redemption. What do? Do you try to redeem it? Do you sell it? But it's like I pulled a Vince Carter 101 Logo Man auto out of National Treasures back in 2012, 13. And I didn't know what to do with it because it was kind of like, even back then, it was still a little funny, right? With the redemptions. And and I was just like, and I had opened 3 cases. That's how affordable for myself. This stuff was affordable. This was like, I want to say $1,500 a case. It was ridiculous for basketball. 2012, 13 National Treasures.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I bought 3 cases, and I remember I was at Myrtle Beach with my friends, and they went out and they wanted to go on the strip and have fun on the beach, and I wanted to sit in the hotel room and open these antique cases myself.
I don't blame you.
and I opened them and I pulled that Logo Man.
Man!
Wow!
I was like, what do I do with it? And me being me, I mean, how long ago was that? 10 so many years ago. I sold it.
Yeah. You sold it.
Way too cheap.
You ain't gonna keep it.
I sold it. I didn't know what's gonna happen. I sold it. I sold it way too cheap, and that's probably one card that I wish I would have. I mean, we always say wish we would have kept, but that's probably one. Probably won't get again.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But
stay by.
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with the hobby with them taking over.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we'll all wait and see for sure. Leon, thanks for just your story. It was great to hear where you came from in terms of like your journey with the hobby, and so glad you reached out to us. So with all our guests, we'd like to just kind of go through some very quick rapid fire questions. So I hope you're prepared for that. I think okay. I think I already know your first answer, but I was gonna ask favorite card you currently own. So it's probably Ray McCallum something, right? Is that next question? Can we?
Yes, you already hit the nail on the head. It's my avatar and blog. It's the Ray McCallum.
Go Kings.
Logo Man, Immaculates. His only Logo Man, like 101.
Okay.
It has a description. Go Kings.
Right, if I ever see a Ray McCallum card at a local show in Toronto, I'll pick one up for you and send it to you.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right, question number 2. Most valuable card you currently own? I know you have a few.
I'll be honest with you. The sweet spot for me has been at card shows has been between $100 and about $500, and I've noticed I've had a lot. The most recent was the Wilt, the incredible gem, and honestly, I don't know what the real value of that was because there's not many SGC gems Wilt autos, and I just sold it right before the National. I just sold it. That was probably the most valuable I had at the time. I've had lots of probably the 2. I've had gold refractor Currys, or Topps Chrome. I had that whole set, the whole set of 500. The refractor. I had the whole set. I collected that when it first came out.
Wow.
The Curry Exquisites. They have 2 different versions in his Davidson uniform. The 225. I had his parallel to 30. I had 4 of those.
Wow.
And you can only imagine what they go for. I never had an NTRPA, but I had a ton of those Exquisites. I had the 225 because they weren't that expensive. They were a few $100 cards.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going back, but now honestly, what I probably have, I would say it's probably I have several Bill Russells, and they're probably in the $2,000-$3,000 range. And I have some nice exquisite stuff that's probably in the $2,000-$3,000 range. But I'll be honest, I have a ton of stuff that's in the 1 to 5 because that's the sweet spot. And then I also have a lot of stuff from 500 to about 2,000. But I'll be honest with you, recently I kind of liquidated all my stuff that was over like 10 grand. I had some Jordan autos, I had some LeBron autos,
Okay.
I had the Wilt, and I moved them for one. People, unless you're at the National or run these bigger shows, people aren't walking around the card shows with 20 grand in their pocket
Right.
to drop
Right.
a auto.
Yeah.
But if you had $21,000 cards that are really nice, patch autos of Bird, Johnson, Magic Johnson, all these guys, Kareem or whoever, they'll buy those. I've learned that. Like they'll go and they'll buy all of those. So I adjusted my way of thought because I used to have these bigger cards and I was like, they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
And unless I go to a bigger show, and I said, you know what, I want something that I can move and it's not stagnant. So I started liquidating. I started trading down. I started taking, if I had to with some things, I started taking, half cash so I could invest in something else and then taking the rest in trade. Or every once in a while I'll sell, I sold a Jordan for like 13K or, like a LeBron for 9K. And that's great and all, but it doesn't happen very often. Those cards sat in my cases for a few months. So I'd rather have a whole bunch of, 1 to 500, 500 to 1,000, 1,000 to 2,000. And then it kind of gets, it gets a little murky, the 2 and up. I mean, there's always a range for everybody, but for basketball, it gets a little murky and some of that stuff sits there. And I'm like, that's not making me any money as a business owner. It's stuff that just sits there. Yeah. You know what I mean? So,
Gotcha. Yeah. I know you're mostly into basketball, but I'm sure you heard about the Mickey Mantle 1952 Topps baseball card, SGC 9.5, that sold for $12.6 million. Your opinion, worth every penny or buyer overpaid?
How many, what's the pop on that? Or, that's a 9.5 though. So the 10s have a pop on
SGC.
Three. There's three 10s, yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
So the 9.5, do you know if the pop count on that or?
I'm going to say 1.
I'm assuming that's the 4th best card out there.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason I'm going to say it's worth every penny, and that's my answer, is because there's a whole lot more than 4 people with enough money that want that card. Okay. So, we're talking, I don't know, millionaire, but whatever you have to be or a true collector. Like you guys said, it's almost in a sense art. It's like a piece of art, like a Van Gogh or whatever. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, will I ever be able to sniff that? No, or a lot of us won't ever be able to sniff that. You know what I mean? But the people that can, there's always going to be a market for that, I believe, because there's only 4. It's like the 4th best one, right?
Yeah.
And there's more than 4 people that want that Mickey Mantle as a grail in their collection or to show off or whatever. People that have the money.
Good
so
answer.
I'd say it's worth every penny.
Yeah. I think we're aligned for the most part. Yeah. All right. Next question. Going back to basketball, what's the most underrated basketball card set in your opinion?
That's tough. It would have been 2012 Prism, but that took off last year. So,
right.
And it would have been 2009 Topps Chrome last year, but that took off.
Oh, I can't wait to hear what Leon says next because I'm going to buy whatever he says. Feel like he's onto something.
I'll be honest. You guys had already kind of hit the nail on the head. I still think these Chrome refractors are underrated.
Love it.
Some people don't like them. I'll be honest with you. Some people, it's not for them. It's shiny. It's not numbered. You know what I mean? But they didn't make so many of them, especially the golds.
Right.
So it's set. I wouldn't put it on any specific year. Well, I love 2009 because for the reasons I said, it's the last year. They didn't have Topps Chrome packs. You had to get them out of regular hobby tops, the paper tops. They were extremely hard to pull. You hardly ever see them, right? I've seen 90, 96, 97 Topps Chrome boxes. You see them. When's the last time you see a ton of 2009 Topps boxes? Right. So Topps Chrome refractors are still very underrated, those later sets. And I'm not by any means saying go buy them or, you know what I'm saying? Like they're the next big thing. But you guys had already hit the nail on the head. I think they're still very popular and they're still quite affordable, at least for some of the the lesser guys. I mean,
Yeah.
Curry, obviously,
No,
you know what I mean? But some of the lesser guys, some of the veterans, even the LeBrons have come down quite a bit. The golds haven't, but you know what I mean? The refractors and things.
The
I
regular
just
ones,
love that shot. Who doesn't love 90s basketball if you grew up in that time?
Right.
The refractors. So those sets to me are probably, the most underrated.
Okay, good answer. Lastly, we always make it about us. Based in Toronto, the three of us. So, a question about the Raptors, more specifically, the reigning Rookie of the Year, Scotty Barnes. Overrated or underrated in the hobby? There's only one right answer here.
I want to be asked back on the show, so I don't want to give a bad answer.
No, we want an honest answer.
I know. I was just kidding. Honestly, he is priced pretty high, and honestly, most of the rookies that come out get Rookie of the Year. They get that bump, right?
Sure.
And he kind of snuck in there because I thought it was Mobley, almost to the very end. And I don't know if Mobley got hurt. I can't remember what happened, but everybody's like Mobley, and then he snuck in and kind of came in there and snuck in and took it.
Right.
But when I look at his prices compared to, let's say, Cade and Mobley, he's kind of right in there. You know what I mean? Okay. This is tough because, like I said before, with the modern, I'll take a stab at stuff, but it'd be like a gold prism. And if I had to say underrated or overrated, that's tough. I probably would say it really depends on what Toronto is going to do with their team and how far, where they go. They go on a championship. So I can say that he is underrated because of the unknown, but I always feel that every rookie after their rookie year is overrated as far as card values because it happens every year. Right. People want the first year, and then next year comes back, and then these guys fall under they go on the radar. True. And it's always about what he does his sophomore year, his second and third year, because they always say it would depend on age. Usually that third year is where they kick it in the gear and you're going to know, right? So there's some late bloomers. So I don't know what Barnes is going to do. I do like his game. I have watched, I always get league pass. I do watch games. Nice. I do like how Toronto, they have some pieces, but I don't know what the East is always wide open in the East, right? I always feel that any team in the East can compete. Right. I don't care what they say. Because this year, I mean, there was the Celtics last year, it was the Bucks, and then the Raptors won, right? It was, and so any year you compete. It took Kawhi. Don't get me wrong, Kawhi was a big piece of that. But who's to say that? And it's not going to. I don't know if it's going to be Durant, but who's to say someone like Durant comes to there, right? And it turns it around, and then Barnes is your bona fide sidekick, and that's a big plus there.
True.
So I'm going to say right now he's underrated for the unknown because I look at those factors. Okay. I can't say and as far as card values, I could say it's overrated just because they always take that jump, the Rookie of the Year jump, the first year rookies, and then they start coming back down, to where a level you can buy them at, especially if they have a quiet sophomore year. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, for sure. I heard underrated, so we'll invite Leon back on the show some other time. That being all said. But truthfully and honestly, again, Leon, thanks for joining us on the pod today. Thanks for your insight, and thank you for always, of course, tuning into our podcast week after week. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, guys.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, that was a fun interview with Leon. We're always glad, to get feedback and enjoy all the DMs we get from fans of the show. That's how Leon reached out to us. So yeah, we feel free to reach out to us on Instagram, again, at Cards to the Moon, all one word. And we love to connect with you that way. Okay, let's move on now. Because it was a lengthier episode, we're just going to go straight to our regular weekly segment we call Pick One. And if you're new to the show, this is when each of us chooses two cards or two players, and then we debate which one we would rather invest in. All right, so as usual, let's have Hyung lead things off for us.
All right, so this week, because of all the news with, PEDs, it's going to be the battle of the juice monkeys. Okay. I'm sad to say this, but I think Barry Bonds is tremendously underrated. So I'm gonna.
Oh, you're bringing Barry. Okay.
I'm bringing Barry. We talked about this on the Friday episode.
That's right.
With the Topps Tiffany. But I'm gonna go with PSA 10. Okay. So last sold for 6,600. So it's kind of like on the lower end of kind of like the height. I think it was over 10K at one point. Oh. So it's Barry Bonds, the 11T, Topps Tiffany 1986, pop of 444, PSA 10, versus the other juice monkey of Fernando Tatis, a blue auto Bowman Chrome. Last actually sold for 5,500, which is pretty crazy for a true blue for Fernando Tatis. I'd never seen it. I don't remember how the last time it was this cheap, to be honest.
Wow.
But that has a pop of 87. So we talk about like Hall of Fame induction and the consequences that Fernando Tatis might, run into. But you look at guys like Barry Bonds, will it come into effect in terms of card prices in the future? So what is the better investment at this point? Six grand is a lot of money. Barry Bonds is slightly more. But if you're gonna, invest in one of these guys, who would it be in terms of those two cards?
Oh, Battle of the Juice Monkeys. You guys know on a personal level, I love Tatis, and seemingly would be an easy choice, but I can't stay away from that Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds is the easy answer. I think the combination. I will say this: Tatis, obviously, like what Clark has been doing, people have been doubling down. The price is so cheap. I think the potential for the volatility of that card is big. So I can understand from an investment or quick flipping or whatever you want to do, there's a potential there. But I think in terms of long term, when you kind of look at what's happening with modern, ultra modern cars right now and vintage, I give a check mark to the vintage side for Barry Bonds. And then I think Barry Bonds in general, I think the whole cheater thing and a lot of that, like Hyung said, like mentioned in previous episodes, like as time goes on, it starts to wear off. And I think Barry Bonds was kind of forgotten because everybody was always talking Mike Trout. And now Mike Trout being, the GOAT, quote unquote GOAT, with that being in question, I think conversations about greatest of all time and all of that jazz in baseball, I think that I could see that picking up. Top 5 all time, greatest of all time. And Barry Bonds' name is going to be right up there as these talk, like kind of like MJ, LeBron sort of talks. Those talks really weren't around for baseball for the last couple of years because everyone just thought it was going to be Mike Trout. Or at least that's my own opinion. Maybe I observed wrong. But I think the conversation around Barry Bonds going forward, and I like and I'm attracted to investing in vintage, although it kind of counts as sort of like modern vintage. For those reasons, I think it's an easy choice, Barry Bonds.
Interesting. What about you, Clark?
I'm going to go with my boy Tatis.
Knew it.
Knew it. Can't back away from this purchase.
I'm tripling down now with this blue refractor. I'm already in too deep, so I might as well go deeper. But I think what John says is actually true. Like, it depends on your timeline, and I'm looking at a quick flip.
Right.
Like, I think it's reasonable to expect that you can make money in the next year when he comes back, right? Like, I think looking at the charts, this sub 6,000 sale, you didn't see that since 2020, fall of 2020, right? And then below that, summer of 2020, there was resistance around 4K. So I think that's your bottom. Right. If it goes down to 4K, it might go down that far. But I think when he starts playing, and I expect him to be to produce. I don't know if I mentioned this on the Friday episode with you, Hyung, but I don't think he took PEDs when he was 22, 21 to enhance his performance.
Right.
I think it was to
wasn't
heal
even playing.
faster.
Get back on the field.
And I don't think he needs it. Whereas, I think, John, you mentioned in another episode where all these other guys that was caught taking PEDs was at the tail end of their career. So they probably did it just to, remain in the game as long as possible. More likely than someone as young as Tatis to be using PEDs to play better. So I think, he's got raw natural talent. We've seen it before. And I'm expecting that to happen when he comes back. As long as he stays off his motorcycle, as long as he doesn't get ringworm, I think we're good to go. So I'm all in on Tatis for this 1v1.
Nice. Yeah, I think because I have a couple monster Tatis that I'm obviously holding, not selling. I think I'm gonna go with Barry Bonds. I've been on this hunt of kind of like. Well, Barry Bonds, I think he's the most underrated player, 160 plus WAR, and then, that 72 home run season, 762 career home runs, and I remember watching Barry Bonds in the 80s, like with Pittsburgh, and I thought he was like so amazing, like
Superman.
It's Barry Bonds and Bobby Bonilla, man. It was like they ran the early 90s, and being a fan of Barry Bonds growing up and seeing how good he was in that era, I think John does make a point with even Trout. Like, I think it made me self-reflect of how good is Trout. And if you compare him to like really, really like those GOAT type players, and I think Bonds is probably the top, one of the top. I think his card prices are pretty cheap for who he is and what he's done for the game. So he's still around the game too. So which is crazy. But I'm gonna pick the Topps Tiffany Barry Bonds. For me, it's a long-term hold, and that's kind of like more of my strategies where I'm kind of over the whole flipping game unless I get offers where I can't I can't say no. But I do believe there's gonna be more opportunity on that Fernando Tatis blue though for sure. So that's the other side. If it was a short-term flip, then I probably would go Tatis. But because I have multiple Tatis, I'm gonna go with the Topps Traded.
Right on.
All right. 2 for Bonds. Wow. I'm sure Bonds wants you guys
battle
to
of the PEDs. Or the juice monkeys, so it's all good.
Bonds wishes you guys were like journalists so you guys can vote him into
journalists shouldn't be the ones voting, first of all. That's the most insane thing. By the way, I just had to say that. Why are journalists, sorry Claire, I know you're like a journalist before, but like why are like the writers
Why are you disrespecting?
No disrespect, it's just logic. The players and managers should be the ultimate decision maker on who basically gets in or doesn't, right? So that's just my 2 cents. But anyways,
that's a whole new episode, a whole new podcast actually.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough though. Okay, Johnny, what's your pick?
So related to what we were just talking about, I'm sticking to baseball. We just mentioned Mike Trout's name, and Clark, you mentioned Mike Trout last week when we were talking about him. How when healthy, he is the best player in the game, and he's back. He's looking like the best player in the game. But there's also a when healthy best player in the game, and that's Ohtani, his running mate. So I'm gonna say $25,000. We're gonna go big boy money here because I want to include. I think if you want to try to get a Grail Mike Trout, you're looking at kind of like that $25,000 range. So we're gonna go $25,000 budget. You investing in Mike Trout? Or are you investing in his running mate, Ohtani? They both are very similar. Like, top of the class when healthy, but when healthy is kind of a big if, right?
Right. Oh, this is a tough one. Man, I already got burned by Shohei. I didn't know if he could do it back to back. That's why I traded, I don't know how many times I mentioned it on this podcast, but I traded it for Vlad, but... And I still like Vlad, of course, but Shohei's doing it again, and do I fade him again? I think I fade him again. I think I'm going to go with Mike Trout. There's something, I can't quit Mike Trout for whatever reason. I'm like, this is the year that he's going to be healthy. And it just takes 1 year for him to have another fully healthy season, 150 plus games. And, you could just imagine what his numbers will be if he plays 150 plus games. Right. And I think that'll be enough to spike his value again. Beyond 1 year, I don't know. He might get hurt again. But, I think there's really, I'm just asking for 1 year, Mike Trout. Just 1 year for me to win this 1v1. Because I will be right if that was the case. The only way I'll be wrong is if Shohei continues to be this historic on the pitching and batting side, and he doesn't get hurt. He's been hurt before, right? So he's not even immune to being injured. So I'm going with Mike Trout.
Yeah, that's a tough one, John, because I thought I was gonna pick Ohtani actually, because I've been kind of a little off Mike Trout because of our last few weeks, but I know I can't disrespect the guy. He's done so much in his career already, and what worries me about Ohtani is the longevity again, right? But we got to remember, Ohtani also pitched in Japan and just dominated. I look at Ichiro's career, and you look at how he entered the major leagues and later on in his career, but he's had a super successful career in Japan before this, right? So it's kind of the same thing with Ohtani. He's been pitching between Japan and the MLBs for a while now, and he's been putting up some serious numbers and stuff that we've probably never gonna see again, to be honest. It comes once a century type at that rate. It's like Babe Ruth, and then you got Ohtani 100 years later or whatever it is, right? So there's that. So those are the two things I'm battling with, and 25K is a pretty big chunk of change. So I'm actually gonna go Mike Trout, but I could see for me it's Ohtani could win more MVPs than Mike Trout. It's very possible, because he has one. There's talks. He's at a 7 WAR right now between his hitting and pitching. Obviously, I don't think he deserves the MVP this year, but if he does pull a couple more MVPs, it changes a lot of things. And Ohtani's the type of guy that can do it. His body has the longevity in terms of the strength and athletic ability. So I really I really want to invest in Ohtani, to be honest, because I don't think we'll have that type of player again. But if we're talking 25,000, I'm gonna invest in Mike Trout, like I said, just because he's the safer bet, and I'm not writing him off completely. So I think you could. I remember somebody was selling a Bowman Chrome X-Fractor online for 15 or 16K.
Damn.
A Bowman
That's actually
Chrome,
the card.
Sorry, refractor, not X-Fractor. Yeah, refractor. Yeah, but still, refractor is still a monster card, right? It was sub 20K, which is insane. So, I think you could pick up a pretty nice Mike Trout for that price. And Ohtani, it's I think he's overpriced at that point, at that 25K mark, right? So I'm gonna go Trout.
I'm picking Ohtani, man. I actually thought one of you guys would, but I pick Ohtani.
I was gonna.
I pick Ohtani for all of the reasons Hyung highlighted. I think, we're not in a disagreement with this. He is he may not even be generational. This is, once in a century type of player. And I think he is staying healthy, which is giving people a lot more confidence. And I think if he stays healthy, I think people are really backing away from spending big money on him, because there's still some nervousness about that, just going all in. But I think when that confidence shows up at some point, let's cross our fingers that he stays healthy. Man, the sky is the limit for a player like this in the hobby, in the collecting world. He reaches out to international markets. I think the sky is the limit. So I think both are risky at this point. Both are, Ohtani cards are not to the moon right now. They went to the moon and kind of came back, right? So both are trading at affordable prices compared to what they used to be. I like Ohtani, and I think maybe it's a little bit personal too. I like watching him. So if I'm going to be, not that it's actually going to happen, but if you're going to be spending 25,000, I want to be staring at some stuff that I really like. So we're going Ohtani.
Yeah,
makes sense.
That's makes sense to me too. All right, we'll finish off this episode with my pick one. So these are two cards I actually really want. They're both on my watch list, and they've been coming down steadily, like with a lot of other cards. But it's kind of plateauing. It seems to be finding its resistance now. So I kind of need your guys' help or interested in what you guys say. So on one side, it's the 2000. We were talking about Topps Chrome Refractors with Leon, actually. So the 2008 Topps Chrome Refractor of Kobe Bryant, where he's being guarded by LeBron James. Right, PSA 10 last sold for just over 4,500.
What?
Yeah, 4,500. Pop count of 110. And the other one in that set is the 2008 Topps Chrome Refractor of LeBron with the chalk toss. If you guys know the iconic card there, that last sold for 3,000. Right, so 1,500 less, and that has a similar pop count of 106. So 106 to 110. So it's pretty even. So yeah, the chalk toss is cheaper. By 1,500, but the pop count's same. And yeah, which one are you going for first? If you want
man, this one's tough actually. I think I'm gonna go with the Kobe Bryant actually.
Okay.
I just I don't know. I mean LeBron James is, like, we all know he's pretty polarizing, especially in the hobby. Like, you either love LeBron or you hate him. But I think Kobe's legacy is just, it's tough. You're comparing both, but it's like who you like better. And for me, it's like, yeah, it's pretty easy, to be honest. For me, it's Kobe, the Kobe card, for sure.
Okay.
I can't believe this is actually a question for me. Well, you guys know what my answer is. It's the
Oh, I know yours. Yeah.
So I'll just go.
No, it's the Kobe Bryant. But I first of all, I can't believe it's 4,500. I'm actually, I would be on board with you. I actually want to pick that card up. I might have to compete with you, Clark. But from an investment standpoint, both are iconic images. I mean, the 2008 set was like the stadium club of basketball with just such unique photos. But whatever you feel about LeBron, for me, for example, I think you kind of get the best of both worlds, right? Obviously, it's not the chalk toss image, which is super cool in itself. And if you're a hardcore LeBron fan on its own, I get it why you would want that card. But from an investment standpoint, I think there's just so much going on with that Kobe card, right? Number one, like Hyung said, Kobe's legacy. Number two, it's rare to see like such a perfect moment of like two of the all-time greats in one photo. There are some others, but I think there's something about that photo, how they're lined up. Kobe's posting up on LeBron. Like, there's just something about that photo that's so awesome to have two legends in the same photo. I think from an investment standpoint, it's not just the Kobe Bryant card. I think this is like a LeBron, Kobe together legendary basketball card. So I think it just has bigger legs in the future if and when basketball decides to bounce back. I think this is the card. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I won't extend this too long. I'm going with the Kobe as well. I thought I would see if I could get you on the price difference. but if you look at the peak, it's crazy, right? Like the Kobe Bryant Topps Chrome Refractor PSA 10, two of them sold at its peak for over 30,000.
Damn.
Over 30K. And then for the chalk toss, the highest it went was just over 10K.
Wow.
So
yeah.
There's more potential with the Kobe if you just look at past sales, I guess. But yeah, it's pretty iconic.
If it, Clarky, if it was like 3,900, what are you doing?
I might trade one of my cards and pay cash for the other for the rest. Yeah, I really want it.
Yeah.
Maybe we could split. Maybe we could talk off air.
Yeah.
All right, another great episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We always appreciate all our listeners and followers and subscribers. And if you enjoyed the episode, we appreciate you giving us 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcast. And we can't wait to do this again next week for a brand new episode on Tuesday. See you then. Bye. Hey, thanks for listening to Cards to the Moon. We'd really appreciate you subscribing to our podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can also connect with each of us on Instagram at 5cardguys, or you can follow Hyung at Integrity Sports Cards, or John at TradeU at Recess. You can also check us out at 5cardguys.com. Thanks again, and hope to connect soon.